Damn, looks like that intro that we had last week is not there anymore. Damn, I was hoping to have a loud blast of "You'll Never Walk Alone" that would make my what are these bits called on a hat? Anyone?
Flaps.
Flaps, yeah.
That works.
Yeah. You really wanted your flaps to explode, Grizz. That's a great first 1 minute intro. Really, yeah, honestly, Grizz, it would have been really great to start with your flaps flying. And, that would have been a wonderful way to start. But yeah, listen, we're back. Unbelievable.
Thank you, Mike. Welcome to the Red Room, everyone. Mike's back, but with a different type of introduction. All I asked was what these called, and he went on to sort of, describing a whole scene, maybe. But anyway, we won't get into it.
Well, yeah, listen, we answered, that's all it was.
Okay. I was hoping to get a loud rendition of "You'll Never Walk Alone," where my hat flaps would be lifted up in the air, but we didn't get it. People, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. You're all very welcome to another episode of Red Room, where me and a few amazing people get together and talk about all things Liverpool, all the topical things, what's happened, what is going to happen, and give our opinions on it. And of course, as I said, I can sit here and talk about Liverpool and bore you to death, but who wants to listen to me for the best part of an hour? We need a panel. And as you can see, I've got some of the elitist of the elite. I have Lewis, aka Beyond the Cop. How are we?
How are we, lad? I'm all right. I'm seething at the Merseyrail train service, as I said before, but that's a debate to have off camera. I'm good. I'm feeling positive. Going into the weekend against Forest with an unknown entity, but it's been a good few matches now, and I'm feeling a little bit optimistic for the future. Feeling a little bit more positive as things have gone on, and there were really promising signs against Brighton that things headed in the right direction. So, cautiously optimistic, I think, is probably the term that I'm going to use the most going forward.
I like that, cautiously optimistic. Michael, do you share those sentiments? Cautiously optimistic, or are you over-cautiously optimistic? Are you confident?
I'm very rarely cautious in anything I feel. No, I feel and Lewis knows.
Go to Mike. Mike, we need to differentiate. But it's
Michael and Mike.
Sorry, Michael. Sorry, I apologize. That's my bad, man.
No,
Michael,
right.
You go right ahead. You go right ahead, son.
No, I'm good. Thank you. I'm like Lou. I'm cautiously optimistic. I think it feels strange to be on where tonight's major topic won't be slop, and that feels quite refreshing. It feels like suddenly we're talking about Liverpool again, and then you think, oh, we've been like this over a few games this season, but it's still quite a nice feeling.
It is. Lola, I know you're the glass half full type fan. And so therefore you're cautiously or confidently optimistic? I'd say you're confidently optimistic. I don't know.
I'm confident that I recognised the football we played.
Our football team, we recognised our team.
I recognised them, and I recognised Mohamed Salah, and that's probably, if we're going to go full glass half full, which we might as well to start the show, if Mo Salah plays like that for the rest of the season, then nobody will want to play Liverpool in the Champions League, in the Premier League, in the FA Cup, because the man was unstoppable. His stats have actually been on the rise since that Brighton game, his farewell game before AFCON in December. So I think we can be quite confident that Mo's form has turned a corner, and that is a very, very good thing for Liverpool Football Club.
Mike, actually, we'll call it Michael and Mike. I come to you last because you were so eager. I'm trying to teach you a lesson now by going to you last. But now, from knowing you, which has not been long, you're very much always trying to see the positive side of things. From what I know you, you're not one that is shrouded in misery, and so you're probably shall I say relieved that there's something to be optimistic about, almost. Do you know what I mean by that? Like, relieved.
I'm relieved. Yeah, I'm relieved. Listen, Lewis and I have had this conversation before. I think it's really easy to be negative. I think negativity feeds negativity really well. And I think right now we need things to latch onto in a positive way. I think Lola said very well regarding Salah. I think there's multiple players that seem to be coming into their own. I think I know Hugo Ekitike's had a bit of a off couple of games, but then you look around, you think Kirk has looked tremendous. I think for the best part of a month, maybe even 2 months now. I think Wirtz, after putting on some of the lean weight, has looked again fantastic. I think Szoboszlai's been brilliant all season. I think Konate's form seems to have drastically improved. Gakpo himself, I'm not necessarily the biggest Cody Gakpo fan, but again, when we talk about negativity, I think it's very easy when we're not happy with a player to become very personal in our approach to these players. And I don't think that's very fair. You know, the jobs that I work or the jobs that we work, someone's bad at their job, I don't start attacking them as a person. You know, you just accept that they're having a bad day on the job and, you know, they need to improve. Gakpo's turned the corner for me recently. So I think that there's a lot of things to latch onto that we'll get on throughout the show. But it's nice, like Michael said as well, to be able to talk about things that are Liverpool related, not just managerial related. I think that's really important. Take a step back and see the club as much bigger than the manager, because it always has been. Same way as bigger than the player.
No, I think you're spot on. Gosh, this show started off with way too much agreements. I'm gonna have to spice it up in the middle. Because I can't disagree with anything that anyone said, really, because it's true. Because it became very coach or slot, as the case is, orientated. Every week there was just a conversation about get rid of X, get rid of Y, get rid of Z, but they all equaled slot. X equaled slot, Y equaled slot, Z equaled slot. So it's good to talk about the club and in the position that we're in, which is not where we want it to be, Lou, but it's something to look forward to in the remainder of the season. We have got targets. We have the Champions League. We have the FA Cup, which we're going to discuss because we disposed of potentially a very tricky game in Brighton. And we almost certainly have that top 5 place, right, to target.
I mean, if we weren't targeting that, then I'd be disappointed in us as a club and a fan base. I think last season, I think it's not hyperbole to say that we were spoiled to an extent. You know, we won the league. We came into this season with massive, massive expectations. A lot has gone on, a lot of negativity. You know, Jota, of course, a lot of departures. There's been all sorts of incidents going on that have sort of brought the season back down to reality, so to speak. But the ambition's still there. The ambition's always been there. It doesn't matter what season we're in, who the manager is, what players we've got. The ambition is always Champions League, a trophy, league titles. That is just the way that this club is. It's always been that way and it always will be that way. I'm happy that, like Lola said before, we recognized ourselves as that identity is coming back. It feels as though the players are playing for those accolades now, not sort of going through the motions, and it's come at a perfect time. You know, the top 2 is sort of well established, but you've got Chelsea, Man United, all picking up results at the moment, all looking positive. In a season, the way it's been, where I expected us to sort of maybe drop away from them, we've got momentum now. We're keeping the pace with them. We've not just completely capitulated. And this Brighton win is a massive indication that, yes, things aren't perfect. Yes, there is still issues going on there. But like Lola said, Salah looked to be back to his best. That's the first game for us this season where he's won tackles in back-to-back matches. That's the 3rd highest shots he's had for us this season. And it's the 4th or 5th game in a row that he's actually had shots on target, whereas before he was really struggling. There's an improvement there. Ekitike, yes, he's dipped slightly, but it says so much that even though he's dipped, we're still beating Brighton 3-0. We're still battering Newcastle 4-1. We're still battering Karabag. We're still putting in these results. We're still performing now. So there's an indication that things are headed in the right direction. And the jury will still be out on Slot, of course. But if we can end this season, Champions League place, a trophy, or at least a really sustained push for the Champions League, circa sort of 17-18, I think we're in good stead going forward. It will help us massively going into the summer, which is going to be a big rebuild. The ambition's there clearly behind the scenes, as we've seen. And yeah, I'm happy with what I've seen so far, but we just need to end the season on a high. So it's all well and good winning these occasional matches like we did earlier in the season against Villa and Inter, etc. It's how we end the season. If we end it on a high in the way that I just said, I've got no major complaints, to be completely honest.
While Lewis was sharing some pearls of wisdom with us, I managed to create a banner underneath and use it as well. I've been told by production to use banners, so when it comes to sort of editing and clipping, they know which segment. And I said, you're talking to the wrong breed when you're talking technical stuff. But I've managed to do something. And Michael, I'm going to come to you first because a different competition was in play this weekend. Brighton at home. Some deemed it as a tricky opponent, of course, especially the form we're in. They haven't been in the greatest of form, but they always seem to play well against us, especially at Anfield. How important is the FA Cup to you personally in the grand scheme of things this season? And B, we'll get into the game and your thoughts on sort of how it started, and then we'll go around.
Yeah, well, coming up from Scotland and being of a certain age, the FA Cup, when I was a kid, is the same view as how people have the Champions League now.
Yeah,
because that was as a kid in the 70s and 80s, that was absolute fantasy football. You got to watch it. It was like watching your really posh cousin play football, and it was just amazing. And so I think it's really important. I think there's still something special about FA Cup Day, and I think it's one of the few, I want to say, cup competitions that's still primarily about the fans, and for what Liverpool are and who Liverpool are, I think that's really important. There's a definite connection in like Anfield South and that whole idea of the romanticism about the FA Cup. I think it's great. And while we would like to win the Premier League and the Champions League, there's something still special about, it feels like the FA Cup is for people, where the Champions League's for money and kudos
100%.
and Super League, but the FA Cup, it's about the people going down to see it. I think that's something amazing. And I think that what Brighton has kind of showed, especially after the Sunderland game and a few positive results, it feels like Liverpool's been like a super tanker trying to change course. It's taken ages to slow down and start to get better and better. And it's now a bit like what we've been saying earlier. It's now we're beginning to go into the right course. And building on what Lou said, if we talk about that strong finish to the end of the season, think how many times Man City have done that, and it's completely changed their season around. So there's a definite, a quiet optimism that we can think, right, now we've got that, we've slowed the tanker down and we're turning round to go to our proper destination, and it's a chance to kick on. And I think the way we played against Brighton is that we recognised, Szoboszlai's goal was the best example of that. How many times have we seen to go from one end of the pitch to another as quickly as that, as fluid as that? That's what we've all been aching for, that all season, and we've not seen enough of that. So I think that's a great example of the positives. But I think what we're saying about Salah is integral to how we move forward.
Lola, we started off the game. Yeah, Brighton are known to have the ball against the best of teams. They're a very possession-based team. It wasn't too dissimilar to the Man City game in the first 15 minutes or so, but we very quickly got a grip of the game, didn't we? I guess the lineup didn't surprise many. We've seemed to have adopted this 4 attackers approach in recent times, as opposed to 3 midfielders and then 3 attackers. Like, we all count Wirtz as an attacker, right? And then we play a 3 ahead of him as well. I like this new aggressive, offensive approach.
Yeah, I was quite frustrated in the opening half hour because it was another opening period of a game where Liverpool have been very passive. And with the City game, to a certain extent, I understand it, because you don't want to be exposed early on. You're showing respect to the opponent. But on an FA Cup night at Anfield at 8 p.m. on a Saturday under the lights, when the crowd are waiting to get behind you, if you go into the chicken and egg theory about the crowd, I think it's really important that the players take them on a journey from early in the game. So I don't want to be too negative about that, because it was like at 30 minutes, like we saw against Newcastle and against Man City, we started to play. And I think the timing of the goals was really important. It's what made it feel like a victory where you can really puff your chest out and feel confident about it, because there was nothing in the game for Brighton once we got ahead. They had that chance just before half-time when Jones slipped. But apart from that, they largely didn't threaten once we got ahead in the game, and we killed off any hope. What I think was, when I say I recognise Liverpool, what I've seen since Jurgen Klopp came in is triangles across the pitch of players who really enjoy playing with each other and understand each other's game inside out, and have a real intuitive understanding of where they're going to be on the football pitch. And I think you saw a triangle, actually a quadrangle, of Florian Wirtz, Dominic Szoboszlai, Mo Salah and Curtis Jones, 4 players who were just on another level to the players around them and enjoying playing football for Liverpool. And too many times this season, players have looked like the shirt is heavy and that it's all really hard and nerve-wracking and difficult. But I saw them enjoying it because they're really, really, really good at football. And that's, hugely encouraging as a Liverpool fan.
Mike, talking about enjoyment and enjoyable, I guess we have to get to the first goal, because we don't want to waste much more time, because we want to speak about this, in relative depth. Well, what a goal! Like, your feelings and emotions when you scored the goal.
We're referring to the Jones goal, aren't we? Just to make sure I'm visualizing the right one in my head here. Listen,
sorry, I meant to say I should have given you more context. I mean,
no, you're fine.
We've been. I would say we grew up. I grew up way before you guys, but we grew up footballing terms. We grew up in the Klopp era, from fullback to fullback type goals. Like, how many times did we see Trent to Robbo, Robbo to Trent, and we loved it. And they were the best kind of goals that we loved, because our fullbacks were known to be attacking fullbacks. Suddenly we have Kirkes, the new kid on the block, the new Robbo. And then we have a Scouser in the team, but not that Scouser in the team, from right back. Do you get what I mean? It was I felt about it.
You've put something in the air there that I think is really important. I think Kirkes has been battling an unfair tag since he came in. I've seen people compare him to Moreno, which I thought was disrespectful. In fact, Grizz, I've been on this show when people were really down on Kirkes, and I was defending him from the off, because he's a young lad, and I said the same thing then, and I'll say it again now, because I believe, not to sound egotistical, I believe I've been vindicated in the argument. When he signed and he started off poorly, the argument I made was the same that I made for Robbo, and the same that was true for Robbo and Fabinho. The first 4 months, you have to adapt to the way Liverpool are. Physically, we are more demanding than most clubs. The way we play, we always have been, because of the type of club we are. We play off energy. The idea that Liverpool's a possession-based club is a bit more of a fallacy than anything. I know something Slot's tried to integrate. I know something Rodgers tried to integrate. But we are, without trying to sound hyperbolic, we are a passion-based club, right? That's the way the players need to play. It needs to be high energy, off the ball, on the ball. And Kirkes embodies that the same way Robbo embodied it in a lot of ways. I remember there's one clip of Robertson that went viral, and it was a very famous clip for Robertson for many years. So when we played, I think it was Man City, and he presses the left, he presses the right back, then the centre back, then the centre back, then the left back. And listen, tactically, ridiculous. Go back to your position. What are you doing as a left back, pressing the other left back? But as a football fan, that's what I want to see in a way from my players. And that energy, I remember that for me, that was one of the first games where Robbo really came to the forefront. Kirkes is starting to have these moments now where you watch him play and you go, that's a Liverpool left back, because he'll defend the ball with any part of his body. He'll put his body on the line to stop the person going past him. And there's something about that that's incredibly endearing. And in the same way, I'm not comparing the quality here, but the same way that Núñez, in a sense, endeared himself just through work rate. I think for a Liverpool player, as long as you show the willingness to fight and die for the badge, and a good example of it, you'll become endeared to the fans. Now, I think Kirkes is a loss of quality, and people forget how young he is. It's the same with a lot of these players. People forget the age of these players. We've not bought these players to be world-class in 12 months. We bought these players to be world-class for 10 years. In the same way, Hugo Ekitike, Wirtz, another great example. I think that their patience in football is very difficult. Fans are very fickle. So are managers, so are media. But I think Kirk is starting to really prove himself, and I think he has done now for the last month and a half. But just to go to the goal specifically, it is a perfect cross. And Jones, who hasn't scored, I believe it'd been 13, 14 months since Jones had last
Boxing Day 2024 was his last goal.
Which, by his own standards, and he will admit, that's not good enough for Jones. Now, I know people will say, Jones needs a longer run in the side, etc. But he's had runs in the side between 2024 Boxing Day and now. He needs to get more goals. And the reason he needs to get more goals isn't because, what I expect from him, but it's from what he expects from himself. He's a quality player, and he's one of those players that knows he's a quality player, Curtis Jones. I think we can all agree. He's clearly got the ability to score more goals than he does. So it was a great moment for him. It was a great goal for him. It's always great when a Scouser scores. And just great ball from Kirkers. And like you said, Grizz, it embodied kind of what we're used to seeing at Liverpool, So it was nice to see.
I think you get first dibs, Lou, at probably one of the goals of the season in terms of overall movement, pace, directness, switch of play. Again, one of you Lola mentioned about recognizing our team again. And that was another version of Liverpool that we became accustomed to, used to seeing. The sudden transition, break of play, one touch, two touch, bang, goal. How many times did we used to see Sadio Mane on the end of those kind of finishes, maybe, or a Salah, as the case may be? This time it was that man again, Dominic Szoboszlai. I call him many things. Most recently, I've named him Demonic Szoboszlai. I mean, he is growing from strength to strength. Obviously, it caused a few talking points among social media in terms of, can he now be compared to Gerrard, which even though I compared him to Hungarian Gerrard as a joke at the start of the season, last season, of course he can't. But he's growing and really flourishing and coming into his own. That was such a perfect finish, perfect move, perfect finish, great goal.
Oh, it was class. Like, just to sort of touch on the Gerrard thing, people need to stop. I hate when it kills players sometimes. When Minamino came in and people said, he's the next Firmino, and Diaz got labelled with, he's the next Mane, and Flanagan was getting called the Scouse Cafu. Let's just pack it in, people. But Szoboszlai this season has stepped up in terms of it's the overall sort of energy he projects. He's really stepped up both on the pitch and, by all accounts, off the pitch as well. And that goal as well perfectly just encapsulates how Liverpool played in that match. I'm going to share something really quick. The average positioning for the match on that day is so left-hand side dominated. And that goal just entirely stems from Gakpo tracking back and the run of Kerkez, which draws the defenders towards him. He creates so much space, and that's what Mike was talking about before. He's just energy personified. He wants to run into space and pull defenders to him. And as soon as that ball goes to Gakpo and he tracks back and gets the cross across field to Salah, it was just pure flashbacks of how we used to play. That Mane-Salah switch, the Trent to Mane switch, it was just so recognisable. And we mentioned Salah before, when he gets going, no one's going to want to play us. That is exactly why, because no one is trying that first time. I don't think anyone in that situation, I don't think he would have done that a few weeks ago. I think in this system that he plays, it would have been take a touch, hold up play, wait till someone either overlaps him or wait till he's got a pass infield. He didn't. He just listened to his instinct, and it paid off massively. And credit to Szoboszlai as well, because that wasn't like a ball that was put right in front of him. It went a fair distance ahead of him. He had to sprint onto it. A defender was closing it down. I can't quite remember who off the top of my head. But
you're right. He had to get his stride pattern absolutely right.
Exactly.
Where you can either overrun it or just be short and balloon it if you're under.
And he managed to get the perfect run up to get the perfect connection onto it. And that's what I'm talking about in terms of the way that he's matured. It's not just the energy he projects. It's not just the energy that he puts into running around the pitch. It's not just the sort of versatility that he's shown this season. It's that composure, which he wouldn't have had, I don't even think, last year. The biggest criticism that people give him was his goals and assists. He's registered 17 this season. He registered 17 last season as a whole. He's already equaled that total, and there's still a third of the season to go, maybe more. He's just hit another level. The Gerrard comparisons is because of the number 8 shirt and because he's running the show from midfield, which we haven't had for a long time. That's the only reason that's coming up. He should be regarded in his own right because he's been superb this season. I truly do believe in going into a summer window where we're likely to be losing a lot of key members of this squad, you need people who are ready to jump into that leadership role. And Szoboszlai is one of those players, or will be one of those players for me. And that goal perfectly encapsulates just how much he's matured and progressed over the past 12 months as a Liverpool player.
Michael segues into talking about leadership, possible players leaving. I've made another banner, and it says Salah back. Probably his best performance in a little while. Or I don't know, maybe you guys agree or disagree. What's the difference? What do you think is going on there then? Because suddenly he looked 3 years younger in terms of the way he played. Suddenly there was bounce in his legs and pace and dynamism and power. He absolutely bullied, like sometimes literally bullied the fullback Kadioglu. Yeah. Michael, Salah, what's changed? Is it an attitude thing? Because I love Lewis's stats, the way he's talked, the numbers, his defensive numbers, his tracking back, everything seemed to be like a Salah that's just joined a new club.
I don't know. He certainly looks like suddenly he's got that smile back on his face. I remember watching an interview years ago, and he was talking about Robbo, and he said when he first came and he missed a goal, and then Robbo took him to one side and said, see, when you miss, you should absolutely smile because you were there. And if you watch that, every miss he has, he's not beating him. He might be beating himself up inside, but he has a massive smile on his face. And it seems like now he's got that back. And then when you're looking at another thing that we've been talking about, that it feels like we're now involving him much more. It felt like at the start of the season, or when we were on our dip, that whole side of the pitch we were missing out. It feels like we're starting to recognise, oh yeah, remember we've got Mo Salah over there. We can trust him with the ball. And the winning the penalty, when you're talking about strength, that was fantastic. That was, everybody would have been absolutely out of their seat going, that's Mo Salah. And suddenly remembering who he is, because we've almost forgotten.
Yeah.
And I wonder if that's made a difference, but he seems to be, he's got the spark and he's got that smile and that bounce back in his feet. And I'm hoping that, and Layla was talking about that's where we can kick off and go, right, he can then use that as a springboard to go and remind everybody who he is and what he's done. Because we all believe in him.
Lola, it does seem still, I don't know, but the consensus does seem to suggest he probably will be going off in the summer, and there's no way, from what we know of Mohamed Salah, that he'll want to go out on a low. Like there seems to have been in the last, pre-AFCON, that episode seems to be sort of put aside for now. We need to focus on the end of the season and see where we are at the end. By then, he does seem slightly rejuvenated, and that only bodes well for Liverpool Football Club.
Absolutely. I think the difficult thing when we're judging the Salah situation in terms of him potentially leaving this summer is that the dip has now been sustained over a 38-game period from around about the Manchester City game last season. So, February going into March until now. The numbers did pick up when we played Brighton in the Premier League before he went to AFCON. He was averaging 2.6 shots per game before that. It's now 3.7 shots, and all his other metrics are up: expected assists, expected goals, etc. But I do think, I hate the phrase his legs have gone. His legs haven't gone. Nobody looks after themselves better than Mo Salah in football. But I think we are looking at the end of Mo Salah's career as the best, as the best winger in the world. I think we have to face the facts. So does that mean that, should Liverpool keep him beyond the summer? Probably not, especially because, as Michael and Lewis were saying, there's no way he wants to sit on the bench. That's just not in his DNA as a footballer. But it probably does bode well for us in the sense that, as you were saying, focus. He knows what's at stake here. I'm sure he knows that we are likely to kind of move on from him in the summer, just as he will, maybe want to move on from us. I don't think it's entirely one-sided with Mo Salah. But a focused Mo Salah and a hungry Mo Salah has always been the most dangerous version of him. There have been slight dips in the past around the time of signing new contracts, but write him off at your peril, because the moment people start saying he's done, he will always have something to say about it. But in the round, I don't think that means we should keep him, much as it pains me to say it, because I think the decline is there, and he's at an age now where we just have to face the facts that this is the end in some ways. But that doesn't mean that we can't enjoy it and he can't enjoy it, and we can't still achieve brilliant things together between now and the end of the season.
Time catches up with everyone, and I know time is catching up with Mike, because you are in a different time zone. So I'm going to just get a quick final overview of what do you want. I know what you kind of want, but what do you want from Liverpool and Slot and Salah in the remaining months?
I will say you're the segue king, because the way you linked that together was brilliant. By the way, that was impressive. That's a man of experience. You know what I mean?
I know this story.
No, listen. What I want is cohesion. I think the word cohesion is probably the best word I can use. I think Salah. There's an issue within the club that involves Salah. I don't know whether it's Hughes related, Slot related, or Edwards, but there definitely is something there. I think it's likely to do with I forget the word, depreciating value. You've got a winger there who is going down in terms of his stats for the most part. I agree with Lola. His legs have not gone, but we like if you look at Ronaldo's career, it's almost like Salah is in the Juventus part of Ronaldo's career. Still a very quality player, still above most players, but it's not the Real Madrid version. That does that make sense? And maybe that's I don't know. It was the best comparison I could think of in the moment, but I think the club maybe see it as 1 year left in his contract again. We're not going to let him go on a free because we're paying him 400 grand a week. He's not likely to recapture form to the extent that's worth the wage we're paying. If we can get 50 to 80 million from Saudi, that's a great return considering the age. You know what I mean? I think that's how they see it. I think Salah sees it as, don't write me off. I lost a very close friend in the summer. I'm adapting to a new style of play. I'm kind of adapting my ways of working in the same way. If you want to use the Ronaldo link, Ronaldo adapted from going from a winger to a striker. You think of Rooney. Rooney went from being a striker to a midfielder. He's in that era of his time now where he's trying to figure out how to ensure longevity and quality in his position. And that's why Liverpool are willing to not sacrifice, but willing to work around that. And I think judging off the way that Hughes and Edwards seem to be working, I don't think they will look to adapt around it, which is a shame, because for me, you don't see players retire at clubs anymore, which I know sounds bizarre because obviously players retire, but you don't see legends stay at clubs to the end of their contracts and end their. It's so rare now. The last one to do it for Liverpool was Carragher, which when you think about it, Gerrard didn't even do it. Gerrard had to go to LA Galaxy because Rodgers said you'd be a bit part player. So it's a shame that, because I look at Van Dijk and I look at Salah, and for what they've given me in my childhood, although right now this virus has made me age about 10 years in a week. It was my childhood when Van Dijk and Salah first were at Liverpool. But you'd want them to stay into the end in a romantic sort of way. But I do think he moves on. But what I'm looking for is cohesion. I'm looking for Salah to recapture what Salah embodies, and like statistically, as Lewis and Lois have pointed out, he's clearly on track to do so, which is very good. I think that comes from just playing with these players and getting used to everybody. Him and Wirtz look a lot better in the same side now, and listen, delivering a trophy at the end of the day. There's a lot that would be forgiven this season if we walk away with a trophy. I know that sounds maybe again, but this comes down to fickle fans, and I'm a fickle fan as well. I'm talking about forgiving it. If we get Champions League place and we walk away with the FA Cup, or even in a wonderful way, we walk away with the Champions League, you never know. Football's a strange thing. This season looks so different. suddenly you can accept some of the excuses. You can certainly accept some very valid excuses that could be put forward. So, let's see what happens. As you said, I'm a very optimistic fan. So at any sight of optimism, I'm latching to. Okay. I'm covering my ears like your flaps to any sort of negativity. Anytime I hear them, I'm putting them over. But yeah, listen, we'll see what happens, guys. I am going to have to get going though. Thank you very much for having me on. Next time I will last a whole episode. And for Grizz, I think you're the only one here doing Ramadan. So I hope it's all going well for you, brother. And yeah, love to the rest of you guys. And I'll see you guys later. Okay.
Excellent, man.
Take
Nice
care.
one.
Love you, man. See you in a bit.
All the best. I guess just one by one, going round the panel very quickly. Salah, what would you do with him? Sell, keep, Lewis. Okay, we're getting and there's no bargaining, there's no negotiation. We're getting a £60 million offer.
I would. My head says sell. My heart says keep. I'm stuck. I want Salah to play with us till he's a brain in a jar. I honestly don't want him to ever leave. There's no part of me that wants to see Salah gone. He is our generation's Ian Rush or Kenny Dalglish. Do you know what I mean? He's up there in that upper echelon. Like I said, that there's Liverpool legends. You've got Suarez, Torres, Mane, Michael Owen, those kind of players. And then you've got the upper tier, which is like Ian Rush, Dalglish, Gerrard, Fowler, those level. Salah managed to get his way from there to there. Like he's ascended legend and he's turned into just Liverpool folklore. And I want him to stay, but I think realistically you have to move him on this summer. I think that this is the time now. People remember how you leave, and if Salah leaving right now, putting out the worst numbers he has done in a Liverpool career, clearly not struggling as such, but there's a noticeable decline. It's not going to get any easier, and the longer we sort of prolong the rebuild, it's only going to be worse for him and for us.
Michael, £60 million, Al Hilal.
I'm the same as Lou. I think we'd want to keep him, but I like the romanticism of giving him a massive goodbye in May, in the same way that we did with, say, Bobby or Millie and things like that, because I think in 5 and 10 years' time, the younger generation will go, oh my God, you got to see Mo Salah play. Because I still think there's an element where he's underappreciated. We've almost become taken elements of what he does for granted. And I think that there's no way he'll get another contract after this. And we can't, he's too good and too big a character for Liverpool and the fans to be a bit player next year. I think it probably suits everybody and I don't want to say move him on. I want to say to give him a chance to do the next part of his career, for his next adventure. And if it's closer at home, then can only say, give him our best regards and want the very best for him, because he should go somewhere else and be an absolute hero for somebody else and say, thank you very much. I can't believe what you did for us. You were amazing.
Very generous from Michael. Lola, are you as generous, or are you going to do the selfish thing and say, no, stay, win us another trophy, break another record? I don't care about anything else apart from I want Salah to remain at Liverpool until his contract runs out.
I'm with Lou. It's a horrible heart decision. But ultimately, we know the decision makers in the building at Liverpool are head over heart. So we know what they'll be thinking. And I think fundamentally with Mo Salah, he's not a Bobby Firmino. Bobby Firmino was all heart as a footballer. And Mo Salah has the absolute ruthless will to win at the expense of everybody else and sometimes even his teammates. And that's what makes him great, is that hunger to break records. But it's also what makes him something you have to manage in the dressing room, and something that we've not always managed particularly well this season. And at other points, he's flared up. So I think, unfortunately, much as I would love for him to carry on being brilliant and how it will hurt to move on from him, it's the right decision, because he is volatile, and you can make that work when he's banging it in every week, banging in the assists, but you can't make that work if the level declines.
Yeah. Go on, Lou, you was going to say?
Oh, I was going to say, like, if I said to you when Fowler re-signed and 2 years later in that last game against Charlton Athletic, if I said to you, right, is now the right time to move him on, or do you want to keep him because of who he is, even though he's not producing much output, you're not keeping him around.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've got another banner up, and it says Midfielders Conundrum. I'm trying to... Anyway, we leave it out. Don't laugh.
I'm not. It's so not.
You're laughing. You literally laughed at me.
You just seem so happy when you got the
I
banner.
am. I'm proud of myself, and this Lewis, just because he's a bloody, he's a whiz kid, just because he's a technical genius, right? He's got his own channel now. You know, he knows how to do bits and bobs, right? He's laughing at poor old me. But anyway, you're supposed to be helping me. Anyway, Lewis, Midfielders Conundrum, and the reason why I asked that or put that up is because there's a lot of talk about the contract situations of Szoboszlai, McAllister, Curtis Jones. Endo, I think we don't need to have too much of a segment on. We understand and we realize an absolute cult hero.
Yeah.
But, you know, it is what it is with him. The other three, though, and I'm not going to put Gravenberch because Gravenberch looks to be the most secure at this stage, is funny enough. The other three, is there a bit of a conundrum? Is there a bit of a situation with possibly one of them leaving? Can we afford to let more disruption take place in an important segment of the team?
No, I don't think. I think if it comes down to us deciding whether people leave or not this summer out of purely, you know, we just don't see the point in keeping them around, I think it's daft. There's too much area of this team right now that needs rebuilding, and there's other areas of this team that are going to need rebuilding based around, you know, if Salah was to leave, for example, we need another right winger. Chiesa's probably going to be going, so you're going to need someone else there. Centre-backs, we need more of them because Konate might not be sticking around. Midfield is the one part of this pitch, bar maybe Endo's position, like you touched on, where there's stability. Like left back, for example, you don't maybe necessarily need to worry about it, or right back per se. Midfield is stable. You've got some of the best midfielders on the day in Europe, some of the best midfielders in Europe, period, and the likes of Szoboszlai, Florian Wirtz. You've got reliable backups in Curtis Jones. I don't see any purpose to be moving them on, but it does depend on whether people are happy. And obviously, McAllister's been coming out and saying a lot recently. Curtis Jones, I still don't think slot favours him very highly, even though the Brighton performance, I still think he won't be sticking around, much to my massive despair. I think Jones is vital to this team in a very, very underrated way, not just in terms of what he provides on the pitch, but off the pitch. And Szoboszlai is being linked with moves to Real Madrid now by, you know, his agent was coming out the other day and saying, or sorry, the Hungary coach was coming out and saying, look, he's dreamed of playing for Real Madrid. But if you're Liverpool right now, the nucleus of this team revolves around that midfield energy, that versatility, that creativity, defensive fortitude from those players. You can't disrupt that, not when you have to rebuild every other position in this team, almost bar one or two. I would not be selling any of them this summer, bar maybe Endo. But we are going to have to seriously clamp down and give them some new deals then, because if you're talking about the wages that they're on and the actual expiration dates of them all, like, for example, Florian Wirtz is on around 200k a week, which is brilliant. Alexis McAllister's on 150k. You know, does he maybe deserve more than that? Who knows? Gravenberch's on the same amount of money. Szoboszlai's on 120k. Does not warrant the performances that he's putting in when you've got Cody Gakpo on around 250k at the moment. So there needs to be serious discussion of, okay, if we're serious about keeping these midfielders in the club, we need to pay them what they're worth, just like we did for Salah and Van Dijk, who now we're talking about as they could potentially leave in the next year or two. Szoboszlai is the future of this club. Gravenberch is the future of this club. Jones needs to be part of the future of this club. So you've got to make sure that we're giving them what they deserve.
Michael, I've used same opinion. All the three mentioned midfielders, or four, or Endo, leave Endo out of it. Szoboszlai, Curtis Jones, McAllister, all musts, or do you see an exit?
I think they're all musts. I think that we're only talking about 4, and if you throw Wirtz in there, we're actually quite light on the ground. If we lose one of them, we're not, let's be serious, we're not known for spending lots of money. Who are we replacing them with? And if Salah does leave, that frees up a significant amount of wages, because what Lou's saying there is, that almost sounds like an absolute, we're getting a bargain for what we're paying for Szoboszlai. He would get double that just to sit on the bench at Chelsea. But I do think, or maybe I'm just being optimistic because there's lots of it going about in a minute, that the chat about Real Madrid is that bargaining tool to add a few tens onto the negotiations. I'd like to hope it is, because, again, is he going to walk into that team? Maybe on the form, but it just seems to be, because Barcelona don't seem to have any money, or we're going to go to Real Madrid. That seems to be the go-to place now. But I think we have to keep them. Although I think since Jones's fallout with Slot, I think there's a slight difference in him, and I think you saw it in his interview at the Brighton game. There's a hardened professionalism that he suddenly brought, and even that goal, when you see how far back he ran from to get that goal, that first goal against Brighton, I think there's a shift in Curtis Jones where feels like he's even more determined to live up to the hype that Gerrard gave him, and I think that can only be good for Liverpool.
Leone gets more money than him.
Because if we don't, who are we replacing them with? Because if Endo goes, we need cover, and we're not going to buy 3 midfielders because we've never done that.
Lola,
we have to keep them.
Lola, same boat. 3 crucial contracts. I guess I agree. The Szoboszlai one is probably just negotiation tactics. But I think there's something in the Curtis Jones scenario, and I don't like the way I think it may be ending. I don't know what you guys think. I think all 3 are a must, and we have to secure them. That's where I stand.
But this is the first time we're going to not agree on the show. I don't think it's a must to re-sign McAllister. I would take a fee for him this summer. I think he's fantastic. I love what he's done, what he can be, but I think it is. I think he is in a bit of physical decline, and it's a bit like Fabinho. You're looking at him. I think McAllister's 27, 28, and you're looking at him and you're like, how is this happening so quickly? Because it happened for Fabinho at 29, but it does just happen. It's not everyone is like Mo Salah, and there are different demands when you play in the middle of the pitch. It's not that I think McAllister's not done at the top level at all, but I think the Premier League, as it is now, so physical, so quick. I think I could totally see a world in which McAllister goes and prolongs his career by being the absolute best midfielder in La Liga, or even Italy or Germany or wherever it might be. So I would take a fee for McAllister this summer. The others, Szoboszlai, I couldn't believe it when you said, whoever said what his salary was. I mean, that's appalling that Cody Gakpo's on 250k, Szoboszlai's 120. Like, he is the future. He is going to be the captain of Liverpool Football Club. I think the worry would be Real Madrid will wait. So whether it's true or not, they will wait. They don't pay big fees. They will wait and get him for free and give him a big signing on bonus. So I think that has to be the priority. And then McAllister is the one that I'm looking at and thinking, can we get a good fee for him? We don't, we can all shake hands and say this has been a very productive 3-4 years that we've spent together. And McAllister's never been someone who I thought would stick around and spend his whole career at Liverpool. So it wouldn't surprise me at all if he fancied a move abroad. So I think that's the position where you're looking at, can we bring in that number 6 player that we've all been absolutely desperate to bring in since Fabinho's legs fell off, push Gravenberch further forward, and make that player really like the linchpin of the midfield moving forward.
Go on, Michael. Who's going to say something?
I think Lola, I think you're spot on. And I think the other thing to think about McAllister going into next season, there'll be a World Cup. So if he's tailing off, his start, he's not going to be in his prime come August. And I think, yeah, Lola, I'd take that back. I think you're absolutely right. And you could see him going to La Liga and doing what Modric did and just bossing a game through his actual football rather than his physical attributes. And I think that there's something in that. And I think the fact that he's not a starter like every single game, he's not the first name on the sheet. And while I mean, he had a really, really good World Cup, and that completely changed him. But I don't know. I could see that would make complete sense, and that would be a slightly easier one to fill, and it fits into that age bracket. So he's at that age where, because I don't know who somebody else said it earlier on, that we don't buy players for the next season, we buy them for the next 10. And McAllister, and Lola was spot on, doesn't, because of his age, doesn't fit in that. And so if we sell him now or get a good deal for him in the summer, this is the best we're going to get. I think that, yeah, Lola, I would have to change my mind. I agree. I think there's an opportunity here to take the wages off and then replace him with a younger version that can cover the number 6. I think that'd be a good shout.
I think Lola really thought she's going to get away with disagreeing with me. But I'm sorry to disappoint you, but you're going to agree with me again because I was just playing devil's advocate. Surprise, shock. I've been advocating the sale of Maka since Lou will know all season, and I think I already know who we're going to replace him with, a certain Wharton of Crystal Palace. Yeah. And so I'm of the opinion exactly what you guys have just said. It's been a brilliant 3-4 seasons, McAllister. We got him for 35 million. You could say one of the bargains of the last 4 or 5 years around, from Brighton. What a magnificent fee we got him for. And if we can recoup that and maybe get another 10-15 million on top, hey, everyone's a winner, baby. Curtis Jones, I want to keep. I know he frustrates. I know he splits opinion. And Szoboszlai, like we will agree, is probably the future captain. But the McAllister one absolutely makes sense.
I'm going to throw a wee wobbler in there if it's okay. If considering what we've chatted about in the last few weeks, who's more likely to stay in the summer, Jones or Arne Slot?
Slot.
If Slot goes in the summer, there's no chance of Jones staying.
Yeah, and vice versa.
But I think if you're Liverpool right now, who's invested a lot of stock in Slot and has sort of brought in players for his style, it's easier to get rid of Curtis Jones than it is Slot. And Jones, like I am the biggest Curtis Jones supporter. I think he is so criminally underrated. The fact that he's on 50k a week and Giovanni Leone's on 55k a week really stresses me out. I think he's so criminally underrated for this team, and I want to see him stay for a long time. But Liverpool as a club are going to see more stock in keeping on a Slot than I think they are Curtis Jones, who you can get a decent fee for.
Also, it is just like, this is a horrible thing to say because I'm also in the camp of desperately wanting Curtis to stay. But if we ever did need PSR headroom, the pure profit for the homegrown player is something to consider. I mean, it makes me feel ill thinking about it, but we do have to consider it.
It is. That's the way it goes, unfortunately. I agree with you. And that's what's tickling FSG's fancy, I feel. But I hope he stays and I hope he sees his future at Liverpool. Hope him and Slot. Hope Slot and a few others make up for the betterment of the club. Otherwise we can't have some of the turmoil that we saw. It's just not befitting of Liverpool. It's just, we're not used to it. We're just so used to one big happy family, like the Red Room. Why can't everyone be like the Red Room? Look at us. We were about to disagree and then pulled me back in and it ended up agreeing again, like one big happy family. Great chat. Absolute great chat. I really enjoyed it. Hope the people in the chat enjoyed it. Thank you very much for your contributions, people in the chat. Another episode of Red Room in the can. We're looking forward to now games of football where Liverpool are involved. Long may it continue. Hopefully the positive and the vibrant energy continues and we carry on. Thanks, Lou. Thanks, Michael. Thanks, Lola. And peace, love, and tranquility to you all. Take care.